Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to What to Look For in the Night Sky. I'm Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, and we're going to be talking this time about the week starting with March 29th and getting us into April 2021. Last week, if you watched the video, and I know you did, you saw that we talked about watching the same part of the sky we talked about the week before. We looked sort of Gemini into Leo, and we watched the moon pass through Cancer last week and helped us identify that region of the sky. We're going to circle back to the beginning of the month this week when we suggested you try to look for Jupiter and Saturn crawling their way out of the glow of the sun. We were interested in a conjunction with Uranus at that time, and so we wanted to really try to look for it, but it was an almost impossible task because they were still so close to the sun that it was starting to get daylight by the time you had any chance to find them. That's not the case anymore. Now it's easy. So you're up in the morning, and for me, we're talking about probably 5:30 now is what we're talking about, maybe a little bit earlier than that. If you go outside in the morning, so start maybe an hour before sunrise and look whatever sunrise happens to be in your location. Look to the east, and Jupiter and Saturn should be starting to become pretty clear. Jupiter rises later. Saturn will be up well before it, and Jupiter's still in the glow of the sun. But so as the sun starts to get bright, as the eastern horizon starts to brighten up out there, you'll see Jupiter in that glow of the sun. You won't see many stars around it because of the glow of the sun. And Saturn's on up this direction. And that's about one fist width at arm's length between them right now. They're pulling away from the sun. So by the time you see this and by the time you follow this, they may be out of the glow pretty well. And so they're starting to become good morning objects where you can see these. They're the two brightest objects you see when you're looking to the east. For me, again, about 5:30 right now, before the sun comes up in the east over here. And so these are your two brightest objects. Jupiter's brighter than Saturn, but Saturn's a little easier to see because it's a little further away from the sun and it's not lost in the glow. So again, about one fist width separates them. You go a couple of more fist widths over this direction and you get the first constellation that you're able to see easily, well removed from the glow of the sun. And that constellation is Sagittarius, and it's usually associated with the asterism that looks a little bit like a teapot. So there's the body of the teapot, there's the lid, there's the spout, and there's something of a handle back this direction. This isn't at all to scale. This would be further over this direction. Heck, you enjoy watching me draw on the board so much, we'll just redraw it. Boom, boom. Be out here over this direction. This is why sometimes I draw before the video starts and have stuff already on the board, but not so much today. So you got a teapot body, a teapot spout, a teapot lid. Look for that constellation on out this direction. Sagittarius is a real genuine summertime constellation. So this tells us we're really moving through the year, okay? Sagittarius houses the cluster that we study, the field of view, which contains the cluster M23. And so this means this is up in the sky enough. We've started our data season, and those of you who've paid attention to some of the things that I've tweeted out there, other things that I've talked about, know that we've started the data season all through March. And it's on over here is our cluster. And if you go another couple of fist widths out this direction, again this way, you're right smack at the center of the galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy. So this is a great region of the sky to say now when you're looking at Sagittarius, you start here. Jupiter, Saturn, sometimes Jupiter has an R on the end, Saturn, and this is Sagittarius. That's a very poor representation of Sagittarius. But you got Sagittarius out this direction. Looks like a teapot, as that does not. And when you track from Jupiter to Saturn to Sagittarius, think about now you're looking right directly toward the middle of the Milky Way. The middle of the Milky Way is on up over this direction, where Sagittarius meets Scorpius. And we'll talk about it again. It's such a great thing to observe in the summertime. We can't help but talk about it as we get in a little bit later in the year. Plus, as I said, my research field is right here, and the area that I study, I've been imaging since 2005 every year, and we looked at that field in 2003 prior to that. So every clear night from about the last week of February to the first week of October, we shoot pictures of 1,600 stars. You hold your finger out at arm's length like that, and about 1/4 of your fingernail is the size of the field of view that we look at, and we identify approximately 1,620 stars in that field of view. That we study again night after night after night after night, looking for subtle changes. So I suggested this to you last week from someone who's done that, who's decided to make that a part of his life. What he does, you shouldn't be surprised that I'm suggesting you keep going back and looking at the same patches of sky and understanding the subtle differences from week to week and month to month as you look at these things. These differences aren't so subtle this time as Jupiter and Saturn are really becoming prominent in the morning sky. But anyway, as we work across this direction, the center of the galaxy is right there. So as you look at Sagittarius, go try to identify Sagittarius as this teapot. Moving from Jupiter to Saturn, and then twice that distance again over here, and you're on the eastern edge of Sagittarius. But as you look at Sagittarius, think about being on a merry-go-round and having your back to the outside of the merry-go-round and looking in at the hub. That's us in the Milky Way galaxy. We are orbiting the center of the Milky Way galaxy, somewhere between 235, 250 million years it takes us to complete one orbit around the center of the galaxy. And the center of the galaxy is right down there where Sagittarius meets Scorpius. And so we will return to this. We can't help but talk about this. This is great to be able to stand here and look at Sagittarius and picture where we are, maybe 2/3 of the way out, halfway out, one side of the galaxy away from the center, looking at the center as we orbit around it on this big, slow merry-go-round. Fast, but it's a big merry-go-round, so it takes a long time to get all the way around. So that's what we got this week. The week of March 29th, 2021. Go out, see Jupiter and Saturn. It should be relatively easy to find in the globe of the sun. Brightest objects you can see in the southeast. Move on across and see if you can find Sagittarius, and think about our place in the galaxy. Think about me out there taking pictures of a star cluster right there night after night if it's clear. Have a great week of observing, everybody. We'll have something fun for you again next week.